Ladies and gentlemen, Nvidia are soon going to launch the RTX 4060 Ti. So, in this video we're going to be giving you guys an update to the specifications, performance targets, and perhaps most importantly of all, what is the pricing that you're going to be expecting to pay for this card. And as a bonus, we're also going to give you a small update concerning prices in the market as a whole, because I suspect it's going to have a meaningful impact going forward to new releases. And we're going to get into all of this after this message from the video's sponsor.
If you're running a copy of Windows 10 which isn't activated, of course, not only do you have to worry about the missing customization options, but there's also that annoying Windows desktop watermark reminding you to activate. Today's video is sponsored by whokeys.com, and they have an excellent price on Windows 10 Professional as well as home keys. Yeah, and they also of course sell games. I've bought a few Windows 10 keys with my own personal account to test everything was legit and worked in preparation for this sponsored video. You can pick up one of their keys for 25% off using the coupon code RGT in the checkout. There's links to their website in the video description. Also, if you're building a few systems, there's bundles available too. Again, you can check out whokeys.com and use the coupon code RGT for 25% off the listed Windows 10 key prices.
So like the changing of the seasons, the tides, and just about anything else that is inevitable, for example Thanos, Nvidia have launched the RTX 4070, and of course they're going to continue to move down the stack with the next GPU going to launch being the RTX 4060 Ti. Now the signs that I'm hearing at the moment point to a launch in May. It could shift of course, but that's the current plan for Nvidia. Now the performance targets for this card seem to be roughly on par with the RTX 3070, maybe a little faster, just like the RTX 4070 was about on par with the 3080 to 3080 Ti, depending of course on the application, the resolution, and a number of other factors. So giving you guys a quick reminder as to the specifications of this card, we are seeing the GPU outfitted with a shiny 128-bit bus with 8GB of RAM. But backing that up is 4352 CUDA cores with a boost clock of 2535 MHz. Additionally, T4C Fantasy, who is the administrator of the Tech PowerUp GPU database, claims that the colourful iGame 4060 Ti has a small factory overclock. So you can see here it's running at 2580 MHz, which is less than 2%. Ultimately, basically all, at least from my knowledge anyway, of the 40 series cards are planning to running around the 2500, 2600 megahertz range, so you can basically just copy and paste that across the lineup and you can get a kind of understanding of what even the 4060 is going to be capable of. With that said, what about the pricing? I've said that it's going to launch in May. It has a performance target of just over an RTX 4070. Well, I'm hearing around $450 US. Now, of course, prices can certainly change before launch, but $450 is what I was told by the same source who gave me the $599 pricing of the RTX 4070, and they seem fairly confident that plans haven't changed yet, with an asterisk. We'll get into the asterisk in a moment. So this is a card which honestly is going to be, I think, reasonably popular, but is going to be hampered, of course, by only 8GB of RAM. How much of a problem that's going to be? Well, I suspect this is a GPU that Nvidia are going to market, of course, towards 1440p, more entry-level possibly. If you can call a card which costs $450 entry-level, I don't know. It's certainly going to be enough to drive it. How 8GB of RAM is going to... how it's going to affect things going forward over the next couple of years, even at 1080p or 1440p, who knows. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen this card have more VRAM available. If you missed a video maybe a couple of days ago, I mentioned that certain Nvidia cards possibly will have higher RAM variants launched afterwards. That's very typical for Nvidia. I was told it specifically about the 4060, but maybe that will also impact the 4060 Ti and stuff, but at least at launch, yeah, we're looking at 8GB of RAM, so we'll have to see how that affects things. But $450 US, as I mentioned, for the pricing, and that asterisk that I wanted to talk to you guys about is basically concerning the sales figures of the 4070. The 4070, of course, has launched, and it hasn't exactly sold as well as perhaps many would have expected. $599 US It's cheaper perhaps than some of the rumours, but it's still $599 US, which is, well, a lot of money. And ultimately, this has led to decent availability still of SKUs which are at that MSRP price point, that entry-level price point. So, I'd heard there were around 45-ish thousand cards available in the US. However, it's important to realize that's only from a single source and they weren't 100% certain to that number. I wouldn't put a huge amount of faith in it. But what I will say, you can just do, a quick search yourself. In fact, some of us were doing that on Twitter, posting things from different retailers a few days ago, and you can see that, this is just an example scan in the UK. I think we looked at overclockers and a couple of others, and there were different regions that were checking things out as well. And in some regions, MSRP was just, good luck. But in many regions, it was being adhered to, and even so, there were a number of cards which were available at that price, and even Nvidia's Founders Edition, it's available maybe a couple of hours or something like that in the UK, maybe 1 to 2 hours. I wasn't checking religiously. So, this brings me to an interesting second story. Videocards.com are running this, but basically Newegg have really steep discounts at the moment on the 7900 XT. We're looking at over $100 US off the MSRP. Now, my point is that I do wonder whether we're going to see Nvidia possibly launch the 4060 Ti at a cheaper price point. I'm not that confident in this at the moment because honestly, well, it is Nvidia, but maybe 429, 400. I'd love to see it, guys, but I'm not that confident they will. I would love to be wrong. I would love for my source to, update me in a couple of days and be like, yeah, that $450, yeah, they've changed it. But I think it ultimately is going to depend on a lot of different factors. I think the GPU market has changed. As we've said numerous times, this is not particularly insightful, but the low-end cards that you saw traditionally, from Nvidia, so for example, the GTX 950s or whatever, the 1050s, blah blah blah, same from AMD, they're basically going away, and this is going to be replaced by APUs or iGPUs from AMD and Intel, and obviously high-end discrete GPUs, they're just going to continue to their thing. So I suspect for many PC gamers who want to continue to play on a budget, they're going to instead want to go for an APU. So it's going to be very interesting to see how all of this evolves. With that said, I'm going to let you all go. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.